Welcome back to the Bandwich Tapes. I'm Brad Williams. Today's guest is guitarist and composer Stash Wyslouch. And this is one of those conversations that really stays with you. We talk about becoming a new parent and how that changes your relationship to time, humility, and creativity. We dig into his musical path, from heavy metal to bluegrass, jazz, and avant-garde music, and how theory, ear training, and deep listening all feed into his work. There's also a great discussion about teaching, what you can't rush, why rhythm and feel take time, and why learning the process matters more than chasing results. And he shares details about his upcoming duo album with drummer Sean Trishka, a project that pulls together all sides of his musical world. Here's my conversation with Stash Wyslouch. Stash, welcome to the Bandwich Tapes. How are things today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here. I recently had Jacob Jolliffe on the podcast, and your name came up a lot. And I was like, you know what? I've been listening to Stash for a long time. I think it's time to reach out and see if I can get him on the show. So thanks for being here.
Cool.
Yeah, you were in a group of musicians that my friends and I, musician friends of mine, and I send videos and tunes around because we dig what they're doing, and you're on that short list that we seem to talk about a lot. So
Cool.
Yeah, my friends Mark and Matt Mundy, both musicians in the Atlanta area, told me to tell you how much they love your playing, and they just dig what you're doing.
All right. Nice.
Yeah, it's great. So what is 26 looking like for you so far? What have you been up to? You taking a little time off, or are you staying busy teaching? What's your schedule like?
Well, I just had a baby 2 weeks ago, so that's what I'm doing.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So things are, do you have kids?
I have two. I have a 24-year-old and a 14-year-old. So yes.
All right. Yeah. So, that first bit of life it's tough to plan around.
Yeah.
So just dealing with that, and it's an exciting time. It's also a slower time. And 26, I'm releasing an album with a duo, Sean Trishka, great drummer, and I. We have a duo called Maddie and Debbie, and in April we're releasing our first album.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we'll do we'll do some CD release shows, and we'll do a little bit of touring in 2026, as much as my schedule will allow.
Yeah.
And I'm always teaching. I'm always working on new music. So yeah.
Yeah. You stay busy. I love it. And I love that so my day gig is I'm a director of technology at a school. So teaching and being, working with people is a huge thing. And I feel like it keeps the creative spark lit for me. And I'm wondering, I'm sure it does the same thing for you. Getting to work with students probably helps you both as an educator, but probably as a performer and a composer as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel, whenever I think of my career has become, it's like teaching, performing, and sort of writing music, creating stuff.
Yeah.
And ideally all those things kind of combine in a perfect way. and they definitely all feed each other. So yeah, I think for me, the educational aspect is very important.
Yeah. I've spoken with several musicians on here, and like looking through the lens of being parents and having children. Is the parental thing, do you think it's changed the way you approach playing or maybe how you listen to music differently? For me, it felt like it kind of unlocked this new creative thing in me, and I just felt a more emotional attachment to music maybe when I became a parent. How's that been for you?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, well, becoming a parent, your relationship to the world changes completely, I think. And if music is a big part of your world, then inevitably, yeah, there's a change.
Yeah.
Um, yes, I haven't thought about it too much in terms of the direct relationship to music, but uh,
I think for me, it, you know, my thoughts around empathy and just perspective around people is just, being a parent for me. And, made that more possible, which then as a collaborator and working with other musicians, I think has probably made me a better teammate, I would say.
yes, for sure. It definitely. One thing I'll say is it's helped me take myself a lot less seriously, or a different way of saying it is be much more humble,
Hmm.
which I think is a good trait, especially when working with others.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I agree with that for sure. But yeah, I mean, having a kid is just the whole thing changes. You know, you're
Yeah.
not. I was actually talking to. Yeah, everything changes. Your perspective on time, your place in the world, your role as a artist, your role as a human. Yeah, everything changes completely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, congratulations. And my apologies probably for the lack of sleep you're getting these days, but thanks for taking some time to talk with
Oh
me.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you, whenever I read about you or see anything about you online, the label avant-garde guitarist is seems to be there somewhere in the line. Do you like that title? How do you feel about that title? Do you embrace that, or are you? I mean, I think you're a lot more than that personally, but how do you feel of that being attached to your name as a player and a composer?
Oh, I'm fine with it. I've put it in my own biography a lot. I think it's probably hurt me more than it's helped me because a lot of people see that and then they'll say, you know what, we're a nice folk venue in a Unitarian church in Northeast Vermont, and I don't think we want anything that has anything to do with avant-garde. I said, no, 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 but I'm pretty sure I can make it, so we'll all have a good time. But I don't mind it. All those labels in general, it's dangerous to be too identified with anything, but you also
Yeah,
recognize we live in a music industry and people need labels to market, and that's okay as long as you're not
yeah.
completely identified and stuck to that, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that just that whole concept and idea around labels and genres can just be so silly and so hard to identify things. But yeah, I would say when I started hearing you, the word fearless came to me first and foremost. Something where I would even, you know, put it in the same category as someone like Adrian Belew, someone
Mhm.
that just seems to go for it all the time, which I love. I feel like you play with a fearless energy that I really enjoy.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's it's really something. I'd love to hear about because I in reading your bio, you were in the heavy metal school of
Mhm.
guitar. I'd love to hear when and how that passion and love for bluegrass came into your life and kind of what caused that shift.
I was in high school. I was a heavy metal guitar player. I played in a heavy metal band that had an electric fiddle player in it. His name's Andy Reiner. He's still
Hmm.
an active, amazing composer, fiddle player in the Colorado scene. And his family had a family band that played just, acoustic New England stuff, contra dance, old time, Celtic, bluegrass. And so just by osmosis, just by being around him and being in a band that was playing heavy metal with an electric fiddle in it, I kind of started getting exposed to things like Grisman Garcia, Vassar Clements, Old and in the Way, things like that. And then I liked it, so I pursued it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, really just really dig and just love the approach to it. But I hear, at least from my ear, I hear a certain Charles Ives to it or a Schoenberg to it. You a listener of contemporary or 20th century classical music?
For
I
sure.
hear. Yeah.
For sure. Not these days, not so much, but it's been a big. I love that stuff. Absolutely, Charles Ives, Schoenberg, Stockhausen, Xenakis, Messiaen, yeah, Morton Feldman. I love that stuff.
Yeah. I would say for me as a music listener, that lane that we're talking about is probably what I listen to the most, even to this day, and it's been that way for me for 20 plus years. You
Oh,
know,
cool.
yeah, I John Cage, Steve Reich, really just, but uh, Ives was very central to me in that, just the idea around the polytonality, and
Yeah,
yeah, I really dig it a lot.
yeah. The Ives stuff is, yeah. I find it's very emotional. Which obviously, I listen to Schoenberg, and there's a lot of emotional stuff there too. But with Ives, it's the connection of the intellectual stuff and emotional is like just like right there for me, which I really love.
Yeah, I would say that, just as we were talking about that label avant-garde, it unfortunately for a lot of listeners, I think it's immediately dismissed, just
Yeah,
like it is with their music, and I agree with you, Ives. There's an emotional piece to it where maybe a Schoenberg or a Berg, it's like there's a certain academic piece to that,
yeah,
versus Ives having, and as you're talking about this New England music. There's so much New England history and New England roots around the music he was writing.
yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah,
he's amazing.
amazing. Yeah.
I also
So
I
then,
like his narrative too. This insurance salesman who composed in the dead of night. There's just brilliant stuff, and it's just like, yeah, anybody can do anything.
yeah, and then like Elliot Carter was like transcribing, like working with him somehow during all of that too. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Wow.
Just yeah, and then Ives' story. Yeah, like his dad would. I'm sure you've heard all those stories about. He would play in one key and have the kids sing in another, and just this opening their mind to all these
Wow.
musical ideas. Yeah, it's crazy to me.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
All right, you have a newborn. As soon as they're ready, go ahead and get started on that. Your neighbors will be like, "What the hell is going on?" How did you meet Jacob?
We went to Berklee College of Music together. So that was another part, being in the heavy metal band, being exposed to it by osmosis. I was in Boston. There was a very strong bluegrass community there that was sort of uh, ready to cultivate an interest in bluegrass from a social community aspect.
Yeah,
And that includes, the whole Berklee College of Music scene in the early 2000s, which had people like, Casey Dreesen, Rashad Eggleston, Jake Jolliffe later, Dominic Leslie, Sam Grisman, all these people were coming through then.
yeah, it's pretty amazing who all went through that around Berkeley at around that time. I mean, I just and I was at Belmont 100 years ago, but I'm sure that experience for you is like, of course, the classes are great, and music analysis, music theory, and all that playing, but just the connections and the community and just soaking up the town you're in, going out and listening to players is probably you took as much from that as maybe you did as a student.
Totally.
Yeah, yeah. Who were you playing? So you and Jake, you guys started. I'm assuming were you there at the same time?
He started a semester after me. So,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. It's in the same kind of thing, man. Just that whole fearless idea. I mean, Jake is so similar in that respect. I love how you guys just go for it.
Yeah.
It's so nice. It's great. Um, the Tell me about. I'd love to hear about. And a lot of my listeners are so into hearing about maybe influences on your playing or as you're writing that may not be in the style of music you're known for. Were you listening to a lot of jazz players? Who all were you? Who are some of those people that kind of filled the tank for you musically?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of jazz. I'd say more than anything, I listen to jazz. Jazz and then like early bluegrass.
Yeah.
Um, so, yeah. Trying to think. Could you say the question one more time?
Sure, of course. Yeah, I'm just curious about, influences, people you were listening to that maybe you took even some compositional ideas from, phrasing ideas, harmonic information from. You say jazz players. Who were you listening to?
Yeah. So I'll say in more recent memory, like one of the big influences for me has been this guy and his school of disciples, which is the Lenny Tristano
Hmm.
and his disciples, Lee Konitz, Warren Marsh. And it's this amazing little school of bebop that came out. A lot of people associate it with like cool jazz, but it's like, for me, it's red hot. It's not so cool. It's very interesting, amazing take on bebop. And there's this kind of whole approach that they had where they were really focused on being a whole musician and being so steeped in the music that you're able to truly improvise. You're able to truly, make spontaneous melodies. And Tristano and all those guys were big educators too, on top of just interpreters and performers. And so hearing a lot about their style of education and the way they sort of practiced integrating ear training, basic harmony and theory to make this kind of whole musician is really interesting to me. So a lot of what their practice was singing solos, composing contrafacts, alternative melodies to chord changes that could really incorporate like maybe some interesting theoretical things and then make it musical. And then kind of an extension of that would be Anthony Braxton, who's very much a avant-garde composer, who was my window to get into the Tristano school, and just the way that he's an amazing composer, does a lot of original music, but a lot of his career, a lot of his output is also interpreting old stuff and sort of figuring out how to take a tradition, how to take a style and flip it on its head. So between those two, I think those were big influences for me in the past 10 years, let's say.
Yeah. Well, and the thing I like about that is that it's like you're taking that concept and looking through that lens in old hymns or string band music. You're approaching the the type of music you play through that idea, and I really like how that works.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting. That's really interesting. Have you? And I enjoy the content that you put up on YouTube. A lot of breaking down videos, breaking down solos. Musical ideas. I take it you're a lover of music theory and
Yeah,
just love and just that the analytical piece of music. Is that always been something that's been pretty close for you?
definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I got a whole
Yeah.
stack of books over there. It's just, I love my theory. And, you know, I also realized any theory you have to take with a grain of salt. And there's so many there's so many paths to get to the same sound, theoretical paths to get to the same sound, and because of my disposition, I happen to like that intellectual stuff, but it's not for everybody.
Yeah. Well, and I would imagine too, as a teacher, having understanding it and just kind of breaking down those walls of restriction that having an understanding of theory can help with
Yeah,
is a huge thing, right?
totally.
Yeah. So tell me about, I'd love to hear about your teaching. I guess what your studio, if you're doing online, if you do things in person, what is what's the level of players that you typically work with?
Yeah, I have all the above. I have pretty serious beginners, people who are just learning open chords and things like that. And then I have very serious advanced students who, are professional musicians who have been through music school, gotten masters and PhDs, and they're still studying. So it's kind of the whole spectrum. And I have about 30 students, and then I run workshops, and I have kind of a semester type of scheduling. And I try to do workshops that sort of gear towards different skill levels like that too. So people who are
Yeah,
just starting fretboard stuff, and then maybe some people who want to get into more advanced concepts, just some workshops for them too.
that's great. What do you take away? And I guess maybe the way I should ask this is what types of things do you identify about yourself as a player by trying to explain it to other people? Because of course, I think a great way to figure out maybe your weak points or things that we all need to work on as musicians is trying to figure out how in the hell to explain it to someone else.
Yeah. Um, well, I can tell you one of the things I struggle most teaching is good rhythmic sensibility. I'm not sure if that exactly answers your question, but it's definitely illuminated how some things can't just be intellectually broken down. I can tell you where the notes are on the fretboard and give you a pretty good pathway to figure out where every single C, C sharp, and D is on the fretboard. And you see a pretty linear pathway to that. But something like, how do you teach somebody to feel playing ahead of the beat, behind the beat? How do you teach them to feel when the right amount of space is to put between phrases? And it's a much slower part of the learning process. And so for me as a teacher, I find myself confronting my lack of patience a lot with that because it takes a really long time to develop that kind of thing. I think you have to learn a lot of people's solos. If you want to be I'm talking about people who want to be improvisers right now. You have to learn people's solos, and then you really have to learn how to embody them. And you can't do that overnight in the same way that you could learn every inversion of a drop two chord in a pretty short amount of time and be able to output it.
Yeah,
So sometimes I have to catch myself as a teacher, wishing that my student had progressed more in a certain department and saying, actually, no, this is a time when just as much as I demand patience out of the student, I need to demand patience out of myself too.
yeah. No, that makes sense, and I appreciate that. Um, and I do think that. So I started out playing percussion, playing drums, moved on playing other things, and I think that when you're learning a melodic instrument, I think that sometimes rhythm can, maybe for beginners, they're so wrapped up in learning the melodic information or the harmonic information that rhythm can kind of take a back seat when
Hmm.
maybe it should be at the forefront of it, and understanding feel and beat placement and things like that is it's going to come up at some point, and I do think it's more difficult to understand it when it's further down the path in musical development.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you can't just teach somebody to. I don't know. Yeah, they have to learn how to listen and hear the rhythm
Yeah.
too. Whereas when you're
Yeah.
just reading a tab or just outputting a note, yeah. So it's
I mean, it's even challenging just to sit here and figure out how to put this concept into words, right? I mean, it feels like an abstract concept, even though ultimately it's really not. But it is. There's something challenging to even explain it,
yeah,
just in conversation.
totally. And
Yeah.
I'll sit with a student who's doing all the things, all the arpeggios, all the scales, all the perfect notes, chord tones on downbeats, and there's something missing. It's usually that rhythmic thing, and it's still figuring out how to sort of work it out.
Yeah. I think for me, as in developing, and I agree with you, playing, learning solos. I think just playing along with recorded material is so beneficial just to
Yes,
understand how others feel things,
totally.
Yeah. And I don't know, I don't teach I don't teach anymore. I used to teach a lot. And that was a big thing that I would, talk with students about. And so I don't even know. I mean, if developing students are playing along with records like maybe you and I did when we were learning how to play. Is that still are the up and coming musicians doing that?
I don't know. But I think one of my faults is I send students a lot of times a recording of me playing the solo, and they get attached to playing along with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to tell, so I think what you're saying is spot on. And it's very subtle. Yeah. Play along with David Greer and really be right locked in with his eighth notes. Okay.
Yeah. I know learning back in the day, learning classical music, listening to 10 different recordings of the same piece of music and understanding the different interpretations around where the beat is placed or how the dynamics are placed. I mean, it's a lesson in perspective, but ultimately understanding how we all have a different pulse, uh, both musically and, as humans, right? And understanding how you may feel something completely different than the person next to you that's playing that same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just even
Yes.
being even aware of that in the first place is a pretty big incremental step, which I think a lot of people aren't even aware of it, right?
I've a home prepared where the saints abide, over in the glory land, and I long to be by my Savior's side, over in the glory land. Oh, over in the glory land, I'll join the happy angel band, over in the glory land. Oh, over in the glory land, there with the mighty host I'll stand, over in the glory land. What a joyful thought that my Lord I'll see over in the glory land. There with kindred dear, there forever I'll be over in the glory land. Oh, over in the glory land I'll join the happy angel band over in the glory land. Oh, over in the glory land, there with the mighty host I'll stand over in the glory land.
One of the questions that I like to ask of guests that I've asked recently is, are you glad that you came up as a musician in the era that you did, or would you prefer to come up in it now? And I'm not sure how old you are, but you know, you I would imagine that content and technology was not as available when you were a teenager, maybe as it may be for someone that's 15 or 16-year-olds now. How is your thinking on that about when you came up versus now?
I'm very glad I came up when I did.
Yeah.
I find it's too overwhelming now. There's too much information out there. I still like to listen to one album at a time.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side of it is you're born when you're born, and you're given what you're given, and that's the conditions you have. So, but yeah, no, I think I can't imagine right now. Like for example, I'm really glad I went to Berklee before social media was a thing. I never worried about posting anything to Instagram or Facebook as a Berklee student, and that to me is just I was able to just be there at Berklee, hanging out with my friends, not worrying about likes or viral potential or any of that stuff, which I know is, I teach at Berklee sometimes, and you hear about these kids who they'll go viral and it'll change their whole approach, their whole relationship to their peers.
Really?
Yeah, where literally they'll all of a sudden, they'll be a viral sensation. So it's bizarre. I don't think it's a healthy thing to do when you're in that kind of studying, trying to be in a receptive state of mind.
Well, and I would imagine that they are then in the pursuit of chasing that viral thing that happened,
Exactly.
almost like trying to chase your first high or something like
Yeah.
that. I mean, it has to be what it's like. Yeah, I am so thankful of that as well. And I do think that, this age of let me show you everything that I can do in this 60-second clip it can be detrimental to what young musicians might be trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I hadn't really thought about that in terms of, a conservatory or a music school, something like Berklee. But yeah, that's pretty amazing that those students have to deal with that. And I imagine it also adds an enormous amount of pressure around all of them, that they have to be doing what the people that are there with them are doing.
Exactly. I mean, and the feeling is palpable when you're there. All these kids are just totally driven by this bizarre medium.
Yeah, I'm thankful that I didn't experience that. I'm also thankful, and I do like the idea of, as I was talking about, listening to different recordings of things and studying scores with that. And I remember performing The Rite of Spring when I was in high school, when I listened to every recording I could find of it. But the difference is that I couldn't find 20 different orchestra recordings with a few clicks. You had to go to the library or go to the music library, and I think the act of having to go and seek out that information, there's something to be said about the knowledge you gain by having to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you have people have to find a new way to sort of to pay.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, I totally agree. And, that is, and I don't want to sound like an old man talking about this kind of stuff, but, those are the things that do concern me a little bit, is that I want the learning how to learn is I think is just as important as, or more important than the ideas that you're learning in the first place, the process of it versus the product.
Yes, absolutely. Which is also something I forget, by the way, as a teacher. And I recently restarted my semester, and I tell my students, to make some goals for the new year and all this stuff. And there's a student who came and he said, he wants to enjoy the process more. I just thought it was so brilliant. And I was like, oh yeah, ding, like, and he actively said, I can't learn everything, but something needs to change in my attitude towards this, where I'm really more invested in the process. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, my son majored in percussion. I majored in percussion, and neither one of us are using anything with that in our careers now. But we both have we're both in the technology field, and we both have conversations with each other about how having the concept of learning a piece of music and how breaking down the little parts of it prepared us for the careers we're in now of learning concepts around technology. And I do think it's the same idea of, it's such a important skill of, as we're talking about the process of breaking down those small steps and understanding all of the pieces, whether it be the feel, knowing where that beat placement is, like you were talking about, the harmonic and melodic information, all of those steps in it are part of that process. And if you can learn how to improve and hone that process, it's transferable either to the next piece of music you learn or a completely thing that might not be musically related. Yeah.
I mean, I love the idea in general of, if you can do one thing well, you can do anything well. And and then doing one thing well is, about the hardest thing you could do. And I'm talking about like washing a dish, cleaning the kitchen. So yeah, no, that's That's really cool. I think about that
Yeah.
with music education too. There's sometimes you'd speak to music educators at an institution, they get kind of disillusioned that, their students are getting ripped off for going to an expensive school like Berklee just to learn how to play the guitar. And to me, it seems like a very short-sighted view of what music education can be. It's like it's just another skill, it's another trade that you can learn something about the process. So I resonate a lot with what you just said.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so important. And there are a lot of people that are probably at Berklee right now or that were there when you were that went on to not use they may not be in a field of music,
Yeah,
but like I'm what they learned there about learning
totally.
is they're taking that with them in their careers. So I think if anything, music education teaches you how to learn. It's I think it's such a soft skill that is so necessary as a professional. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. So tell me about this new album. I'd love to. I'm excited that there's a new album coming out with you guys. I'd love to hear a little bit about kind of
Yeah.
what the material is in it.
So it's Maddie and Debbie. It's a duo, guitar and drums. And the drummer is Sean Trishka. And I've been playing with him since 2013. He's recorded on basically all of my albums that are released under my name. So we've worked a lot together. I've recorded on some of his albums, and we've collaborated in other people's groups together too. And the music, it's 14 tracks, and it's kind of all the above. It's original compositions from him and me. So I'd say Sean has a bit more of a poppy sensibility. He also has kind of a more I was going to say poppy voice. Anyways, there's something kind of more pop oriented in him. So that's really fun for me to kind of play and bring my sensibilities to that. Uh, I have a few original songs on there, and we did like a cool arrangement of a shape note song. And if you listen to my projects before, the Stash Band, or just me under my own name, Stash Wyslouch, I mean, you're going to hear a lot of that stuff. And just by virtue of him and me playing together all the time and me bringing that same kind of thing to it. So that means maybe some kind of alternate leaning interpretations of some bluegrass stuff, some little funky side tracks on the picking front, and there's some metal. There's some metal stuff too in there. So it gets kind of heavy with some double bass so yeah, I'm really excited about it.
I'm excited about it too. Is it all acoustic guitar? Or are you?
Yes, I played my acoustic dreadnought on the whole thing. It definitely got reamped a few times, so there's some distortion around.
Oh,
and there's some
excited
post
about that.
production, some additional like little drum tracks or something. But yeah,
It's for the most part. It's a duo album, right?
it's a duo.
And
Yeah,
that's awesome. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So you didn't play any bass or anything on there? Is it strictly just guitar and drums?
But sometimes we we added some lower octave into the guitar track just to beef up certain parts.
Yeah.
But it's fun because when we go to play live, it's not like we're playing with a backing track or anything. So there's that funny thing where like you're in the studio and you want to make it as much of a studio album as you can. So it's a certain listening experience. But I think live you still get the same energy, even if all the sonic things aren't totally there, which is fun.
Yeah. Then it becomes a new experience with that same material, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm really excited about it. Yeah, I love all of the albums that you've released. I was just listening to your version of Over in the Glory Land. Man, it's so much fun. It's so much fun.
Yeah. I love that song.
Yeah. It reminds me of like growing up in Georgia. I mean, those were songs that I would hear,
cool,
in little churches in Georgia when I was, growing up, and it's cool to hear this really interesting interpretation of it. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I love those hymns. I love those songs.
Yeah. But as we were talking about Ives earlier, I mean, for me as a listener, it has that same amazing energy that I would have by listening to, his interpretation of hymns that he would revoice or rethink. It has that same kind of thing to me, whether it was a conscious or an unconscious thing. I love the perspective that you bring to that.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really nice. So for everyone wanting to learn more about you and listen to your stuff, what's the best way for them to stay up with everything you're doing?
StashWyslouch.com, and you can go and sign up for my mailing list there. So you'll hear about the most important things through my mailing list.
Yeah.
The most direct way, I'd say.
Yeah. And subscribe to the YouTube channel because it's fantastic too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I'm on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, first and foremost, congratulations on the new addition to the family.
Thank you.
And just best wishes for you and your family, and just continued success, man. Thanks so much for the music, and I just wish you all the best.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks so much for talking.
If you enjoyed this conversation, please follow or subscribe to the Bandwich Tapes wherever you listen, and consider leaving a rating or review. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.